shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world, and then shall the end come.
Tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?
Here's today's prophecy update. Speaking at the commencement of Northeastern University, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry said, "You're about to graduate into a complex and borderless world." Strobe Talbot, former Deputy Secretary of State and now President of the Brookings Institute, stated, "In the 21st century, national sovereignty as we have known it will cease to exist. We will all answer to a single global authority." Talbot has played a major role in writing speeches and policy papers for the Obama administration. Pope Francis on Friday said, "Today more than ever, the vision of the EU founding fathers inspires us to build bridges and tear down walls." Presidential candidate Hillary Clinton is echoing the same message. It is fascinating that the Bible prophesies a world without borders, a world government for the times just ahead. According to the prophecies, how will this world without borders turn out? Not good. A man called the Antichrist, in the end, will rule over it. Well, the world is in a state of incredible flux. When President Obama announced while running for the president that he would fundamentally transform the United States of America, he meant every word of it. We have experienced a fundamental transformation, and it has not been for the good whatsoever. Now, the big debate in our nation is, should men be able to go into the women's bathrooms just because they say, "I'm a woman now"? Or should women be able to go into the men's bathrooms just because they say, "I'm a man now"? I mean, let's take this to the shower rooms. If a man says, "I'm a woman," even though he has not gone through any kind of a sex change operation, according to the U.S. Justice Department now, he has to be allowed. They are right now ruling that North Carolina has to do just that. Have we come off the rails? Have we gone insane? Well, somebody has. This is insanity personified. Okay. But there's something bigger than the U.S. I'm talking about a global situation that's happening right now. What's moving? What's shaking? Where are we headed? Does any of the news make any sense? Is there a method to this madness? Well, there is. The people who are driving this whole situation know exactly where they are going and why they are going there. Let me give you a little bit of insight. This article just appeared within the last 3 days or so from Vatican City. It is entitled, "Pope Francis Tells the EU to Tear Down Migrant Walls." Oh, by the way, let's pause just a minute to say this. All of this tearing down of borders, letting migrants come in with no inhibition, this is not accidental. This is happening in the U.S., but it's also happening all over Europe right now. It's part of the fundamental transformation. It's part of destroying the Judeo-Christian fabric of the United States of America on which we were built and interjecting the fabric of the global citizen, the one world government of which the people in charge dream. When John Kerry said, "You are entering a borderless world," did he know what he was saying? When Strobe Talbott says, "In the 21st century, national sovereignty as we have known it will cease to exist, we'll all answer to a single global authority," did he know what he was saying? Within 1 year of making that statement, he, by the way, wrote that in an article called Birth of the Global Nation for Time magazine, July the 20th of 1992. Within 1 year of saying that, he was summoned to the White House to serve as our Deputy Secretary of State for the next 7 years. And when he left the Clinton administration, when the Clinton administration was over, he got a plum job at the Brookings Institute, known as America's #1 liberal think tank. And he was part of the transition team when Barack Obama transitioned from being candidate to president. So Mr. Strobe Talbott is very much involved. He had a person on his team at the Brookings Institute, a fellow for foreign affairs called Susan Rice. When President Obama was running for the presidency, he sent to Strobe Talbott and said, "I need a good advisor on foreign affairs." And Talbott said, "We got just the person for you, Susan Rice." So here she is working under this man that said national sovereignty will cease to exist in the 21st century. Did you hear it? National sovereignty will cease to exist in the 21st century. We will all answer to a single global authority. Do I need to remind you that that has become the #1 issue in this present presidential campaign? Will we build a wall, or will we defend our borders, or will we just let everything down and let everyone come in? That's what this campaign has become all about. But it's not just here. It is a plan, a global plan in which the globalists are participating. Anytime you hear a person campaigning for open borders, tearing down walls, the dissolving of national sovereignty, you know who you're listening to. You're listening to a globalist. Now, the next question may be, well, is this good or is this bad? Well, according to the prophecies of the Bible, it's going to turn out terrible. Now, the reason it's going to turn out so bad is because when you tear down national borders, then you have to put all of your arms under the international authority, under the United Nations. We're going to answer to a single global authority, and that global authority is going to have a single one world army. So once all of the nation states surrender their armies to the United Nations, then if there is a dispute between those nation states, how do they resolve it? Well, the plan is they go to the UN Security Council, they present their case before the UN Security Council, the members there listen, they take a vote, they make a ruling, and everybody is forced to abide by it. What if you don't want to abide by it? Well, you do the same thing the states do now. You have to do it anyway, because now then states' rights have basically been abolished, and all of the power has gone to our federal government. Well, that same process will inevitably take place as we move power on up the line. And since there's going to be one army, you can't go to war over it, because they're trying to collect all the arms. That's the reason there's such a dispute right now over arms control here in the United States of America. They're not worried about people shooting rabbits. Our forefathers made sure we had the right to keep and bear arms in case we ever was taken over by a tyrannical government that we could no longer control, so the people would have recourse to arms to fight for their freedoms back. That's what the Second Amendment is all about. And that's the reason some people are so much against it. They fully intend to impose a worldwide socialistic government, a one world, a world without borders. That's where all this is headed. And the Bible says that. So what happens when you have one army under the control of the United Nations? Is that good? We wouldn't have any more war, right? That'd be good. One problem. What happens when Adolf Hitler gets control of the only army that's left? Now you got the worst tyranny the world has ever known. People would say, oh, but that'll never happen. Beg to differ. A higher authority than you or me says that's exactly what is going to happen. The Bible clearly states that a man called the beast or the Antichrist is going to come. He will end up gaining control of power in this world, and he ultimately will subjugate all the nations of the world to his authority, triggering against all those who oppose him what's called the Great Tribulation. Jesus said it this way, then shall be great tribulation such never has been before, no nor ever again shall be. So when all of world events match perfectly the prophecies of the Bible, and the prophecies have never once failed to be correct, are we then watching the fulfillment of the prophecies of the end time? Absolutely. That's what we're watching. You say, are you sure? I am absolutely positive. Now, I had a teacher in school, and he stood up. He was a fairly young teacher, but the first day we were there in class, he stood up and so cutely said, students, the only thing you can know for sure is that there's nothing you can know for sure. Well, that's empty-headedness if I ever heard of it. Well, my hand shot up. I said, well, if the only thing we can know for sure is there's nothing we can know for sure, then how do we know for sure there's nothing we can know for sure? Jesus Christ, the world's greatest teacher ever, said, you shall know the truth. The truth shall make you free. So how in the world do we sort through all of this den of noise? All these voices, CNN, Fox, NPR, the myriad of voices that we hear, one saying one thing, one saying another thing. It's incessant. How do you sort through all that to get to the truth? Well, turn all those off and open your Bible. And there you will find the truth. You know, when Jesus said, I've come to bear witness of the truth, he made that statement during his trial in Pilate's judgment hall. Pilate was a politician. And when he asked Jesus, are you the King of the Jews? And Jesus said, to this end was I born, to bear witness of the truth. And Pilate cynically said, what is truth? Well, Jesus answered that question by saying, I am the way, the truth, and the life, because Jesus was the embodiment of God. He was God manifest in the flesh, and God created all things, and everything in the universe lines up with him. So Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. The more you know about Jesus, the more you will know the truth, because he is the truth personified. Okay, I want to get back to this speech by Pope Francis. Now, he's making this speech as he's accepting the Charlemagne Prize. One person each year receives this prize, and it's given to the person that does the most that year to promote European unification. By the way, the prize is $1 million, so the Pope is now a millionaire. Well, he was a millionaire long before he got this prize, I promise you. But let me give you a sample of this article from Vatican City. Pope Francis said Friday, he dreamed of a Europe in which being a migrant is not a crime, as he urged EU leaders to tear down the walls and build a fairer society. Invoking the memory of the EU founding fathers' pursuit of integration in the aftermath of World War II, the pontiff said they inspired because they had dared to radically change the models that had led to war. Okay, we've got to stop there to make sure everyone understands. After World War II, Europe lay in chaos and destruction. Germany had invaded Czechoslovakia, then Poland, then Russia. the war escalated. Hitler invaded France and Belgium and attempted to take Great Britain. By the time the dust cleared, 52 million people lay dead. Well, after that war, and by the way, this wasn't the first time that one nation in Europe had gone against another in Europe. This was the third time within 70 years. Franco-German War of 1870, World War I, World War II, all plotted, planned, and started by Germany. It was always Germany against France. Great Britain comes into the mix. Ultimately, the United States had to get involved. So that's what happened. So is this cycle ever going to be broken? After World War II, the statesmen of Europe, including Winston Churchill, said there's one way to break this cycle of violence, and that is we need to merge together. We need to take down our national boundaries, and we need to create a United States of Europe. I actually heard on tape Winston Churchill call, and he called it this, he called for the formation of a United States of Europe. Well, so they set out on this grand venture. By 1957, they signed a treaty. It was called the Treaty of Rome. And this treaty was to form the European Common Market. The logic was, if we bring our nations together economically, tear down all the economic barriers, then political union will inevitably follow. That's what's all the economic treaties being signed right now, TPP, all the others that have been signed, NAFTA, GATT, they're all designed to tear down all the economic barriers with the belief that political union, a one world government, a borderless world that John Kerry referred to, will be formed. That's the whole grand design. And once we have one world, supposedly this will be the way to peace on earth, goodwill toward men. Okay. So they set out with this. They created the European Common Market in 1957. By 1992, it was a smashing success. 6 nations began, 3 more joined, making it 9. Then it went to 10. By 1992, it was 12 nations of the strongest nations in Europe. And all barriers were gone. You could actually live in one country and work in another, just like you could live today in Louisiana and work in Texas. Or you can raise crops in one country and sell them in another, just like you can raise corn in Indiana and sell it in Illinois. No barriers, no tariffs whatsoever. Well, once this was accomplished, that wasn't the goal. That was only step 1. Now for step 2. They got together in 1992 in Maastricht, Holland, and they signed the Maastricht Treaty. The Maastricht Treaty called for the establishment of a common currency, the euro, and then for the adoption of a European constitution. The logic was the United States of America has a constitution. We want the United States of Europe to have a constitution. So they said, we'll have a constitution, and then we'll have a European president and a European foreign minister. So they began to work toward that end. By 1999, the euro was in place. However, when they got ready to do the Constitution, there were some nations that balked about surrendering their sovereignty to this new United States of Europe. Well, in order for the Constitution to be adopted, it had to receive a majority vote of every single nation. At that time, I think there were 25 of them members by then. They had to get a majority vote. Well, 2 of the nations out of the 25 declined. It's hard to get unanimous vote out of 25 nations. 2 declined. I think it was France and Holland. So now the whole dream crumbled. But the dreamers had come so far. They were not to be denied. So what did they do? They decided that we can pass a treaty. When is a constitution not a constitution? Well, when we call it a treaty, we'll call it a treaty, but it'll be the same thing. It'll contain all the elements. And by the way, treaties are binding. They become international law. They're binding once you sign them. So they came up with the Lisbon Treaty, and the nations began to sign on. And finally, on November the 3rd of 2009, the Czech Republic, they were the last holdout, and they knew they were signing away their sovereignty when they did it. they finally signed. And today we have the United States of Europe. It's called the European Union, but it's the same thing. They now have their own constitution, and they live under the sovereignty of the European Union. Within 20 days of the signing of the Constitution, they voted in a European president and a European foreign minister because they know where they're headed. Okay, now, why in the world, what does that have to do with this prize called the Charlemagne Prize? Well, the truth of the matter is, what we're truly watching is the rebirth of the Holy Roman Empire. The Holy Roman Empire was born in 800 AD on Christmas Day when Pope Leo III placed the crown on the head of Charlemagne, the first emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, and said, "I now crown you emperor of the Holy Roman Empire." Now, don't forget the name of this prize. It's the Charlemagne Prize, because they understand that when you work for European unification, you're working for the rebirth of the kingdom of Charlemagne. Just to make sure that we all understand the history of the Holy Roman Empire. Once Pope Leo III put the crown on the head of Charlemagne, that started 1,000 years of the Holy Roman Empire. You can study about it. You can Google it, go to your encyclopedia, whatever, and study the Holy Roman Empire, not the Roman Empire, two different things. The Holy Roman Empire. It's called the Holy Roman Empire because it was a union of church and state, a union of politics and religion. So the concept was politics and religion are the two most emotionally tying things that people have. Some people say there's two things I don't talk about, politics and religion, because it ignites strong feeling in people, passions. So a lot of people say, I will stay away from those two subjects. Nevertheless, when Pope Leo III put the crown on the head of Charlemagne, it was a union of politics and religion, and that's the reason they called it the Holy Roman Empire. It then ruled Europe for the next 1,000 years, and it always consisted of a leader from Europe, a political leader, and a spiritual leader from Rome for 1,000 years. Well, it died in 1806 with the abdication of Francis II. That was the last emperor of the Holy Roman Empire because he had been defeated by Napoleon. But it wasn't over, because the leaders of Europe after World War II dreamed about the rebirth of the Holy Roman Empire, and that's what the Treaty of Rome, it's no accident it was the Treaty of Rome, it was the Treaty of Rome all about. It's the rebirth of the Holy Roman Empire. So now you say, are you sure? Yeah, let me give you a little more evidence. First coin the European Union printed, whose picture on the front? Charlemagne. The most famous and influential periodical in Europe, the Economist magazine. They have a page every week devoted to the latest developments of European unification. The name of the page? Charlemagne page. Then they give a prize every year, $1 million to the person that does the most for the unification of Europe. The name of the prize? Charlemagne Prize. The Pope just got it last Friday. And then there's a building you must go to in order to make application to join this reborn Holy Roman Empire. The name of the building in Brussels, Belgium. Brussels is the capital of the European Union. The name of the building? The Charlemagne Building. 30 days ago, I stood in front of the Charlemagne Building in downtown Brussels, had my picture taken. Do they know what they're doing? Or are they just really lucky? Are these four huge coincidences that this is just happening? Ladies and gentlemen, don't kid yourself. They know what they're doing, and Pope Francis refers to it in his speech. He talks about our forefathers in the European Union, what they hope to create. Now, they not only saw a united Europe, but they said if we can make this model work, then the whole world can buy into it, and that'll be the pattern that we follow to unify all the world. And we'll have what they almost got back at the Tower of Babel back in the Old Testament times. We will have our one world governmental system. Okay, let me read on a little bit more of the article. So the Pope continues, today, more than ever, their vision, the vision of the European Union founders, inspires us to build bridges and tear down walls. He told a Vatican audience, including German Chancellor Angela Merkel, who has been at the center of the EU's attempts to resolve its biggest refugee crisis since the war ended in 1945. Okay, now remember what he says. Let's tear down walls and build bridges. That's the same thing that Hillary Clinton is saying. That's the same thing that John Kerry is saying. They're all singing from the same songbook. It's the songbook of the New World Order, the one world government that they're all hoping to create. And it's called the establishment. Do you recognize that word from our presidential campaign? It's the establishment. The establishment is planning a new world order with no borders. You're coming into a world with no borders. Now, Francis's comments came in a speech as the 79-year-old pontiff was presented with the EU's Charlemagne Prize for his contribution to European unification. Now, I want to pause right there because I got a little bit more of this I want to give you after our break, but it's so important for us to understand. I'm dealing with an article. You're listening to an article that just came out this weekend. You're listening to something that was just stated. That's where we live right now, because the end time is now. Now, you will either join up with this and pledge allegiance to it, or you will say no to it and you will follow Jesus Christ. Those are the two paths that are going to be available to us. Here at Endtime Ministries, we're not going with the New World Order or the borderless world. We are sticking with the kingdom of Jesus Christ. If you'd like to be with us, I'd like to ask you to become a partner with Endtime Ministries. We've got a lot of work to do. It's us against the world, but we're going to win. Give us a call, 800-END-TIME.
Take your understanding of the end time to a new level with our Outlines and Quizzes workbook. This workbook accompanies our Understanding the End Time 14 lesson series. As you watch each lesson, follow along with the outlines, then take a quiz and check your answers at the end. These are all contained in one convenient workbook so you can study as well as teach prophecy wherever you go. Use it as a study guide to cement main points and scriptures that Irvin teaches in each lesson. It's also a great tool if you host an end-time Bible study. Help your group solidify what they're learning by getting a copy for each person to follow along with the video and then to take home and study on their own. Get the workbook by calling 1-800-END-TIME or go to endtime.com and be ready to instruct many as the scripture says.
Partnership is when a group of people join together with a shared vision and purpose to achieve a specific goal. At Endtime Ministries, our mission is to preach the gospel of the kingdom to every person on earth, because the end time is now. Our focus is to explain world events through the eyes of Bible prophecy. We realize that we can't do this alone. That's why we're asking you to partner with us. Make a difference and help spread the end time message. Call 1-800-END-TIME or go to endtime.com and partner today.
Hey, this is Anthony from the End of the Age Control Room. So I know some of you are about to turn your radio off because your station only carries the first 30 minutes of End of the Age. We're sorry about that, but we have good news because now is your cue to turn your computer or mobile device on and head on over to endtime.com. There, click the watch button to continue to listen or watch the program, and we'll see you there for the next segment of End of the Age.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, when I talk to you like this, and everything is dovetailing together so accurately, I confess, it fills me with a motivation and an urgency. I just think we've got to go faster and stronger and harder. That's the reason that I appeal to you to join us as a partner with Endtime Ministries. The Bible says where there's unity, there's strength. And you may think that your little bit doesn't make a difference, but it does. All of us together, none of us can do it alone, but together we can change our world. And we're going to make a difference. Now, as all this is coming together, it's a global trap. The goal is to capture all of humanity and force us into this New World Order system. All who succumb to it are going to be eternally lost. That's the reason it is so urgent to spread the message of what's really going on here and what the alternative is. The Bible says, my people perish for lack of knowledge. I'm talking to you about something today that's so critical, but it's not that hard to see once somebody flips the light switch on. And that's what we're trying to do today. So if you're not yet a partner with Endtime Ministries, make it today. We need you, and you don't have to break the bank. If you can afford $20, $25 a month, that's great. If you can afford $5 or $10 a month, that's great. We have some people that do $500 a month or $1,000. They believe so strongly in what we're doing because it takes a huge amount of resources to reach our world. The media bills are quite expensive and all, and we're not complaining because God has always supplied, and we're very grateful for that. But we need to go further. You know, right now, we've calculated that over a month's time, we will touch the lives of somewhere around 200 million people through radio, television, internet, magazine, conferences, everything that we do. And that sounds pretty good. 200 million people, wow. Well, it does until you realize there's 7 billion people on this planet. So if you reach 200 million, how many are you leaving unreached? You're leaving unreached 6,800,000,000. I will not be satisfied until every one of them are hearing this message on an ongoing basis, because you can't get it listening one time. Now that's what you will contribute to when you become a partner with Endtime Ministries. So join hands with us here at Endtime Ministries. Call us 1-800-ENDTIME, become a partner. And if you commit to being a partner and then you can't do it, we're not going to send the sheriff out to your place. We're not going to call you and intimidate you. We're just saying, join us. You say, what will happen when I become a partner? Well, you get 20% off on all the products you buy, number one. Number two, I will send you a letter that I write only to our partners every month, telling you the latest developments that I think every person needs to know, and also the inside goings on here at Endtime Ministries, so you become part of our Endtime family. So please join with us. Call us 1-800-END-TIME, that's ENDTIME, 1-800-363-8463 to become a partner, and just tell our operators what you'd like to do. Thank you very much for doing that. Let's get right back to our article now. In his speech to the European leaders, the Pope said, what has happened to you, the Europe of humanism? Now, the word humanism is a code word for international socialism or communism. The Europe of humanism, the champion of human rights, democracy, and freedom, he asked. What has happened to you, Europe, the home of poets, philosophers, artists, musicians, and men and women of letters? Francis had made the cause of migrants trying to reach Europe one of the defining themes of his papacy. Okay, now that's what that's all about. Now, why was Francis given the Charlemagne Prize? He was speaking to the European Commission. He was speaking to many of the officials of Europe, such as President Jean-Claude Juncker, European Parliament President Martin Schulz, and they were actually explaining the decision to give the award to such a regular and prominent critic of the EU, and they were explaining this in a column in one of France's publications. Now, they went on to say, some will joke that the European Union must be in a bad way if it is in need of papal assistance, they wrote. We are convinced that Pope Francis deserves this prize, however, simply because he has sent Europe a message of hope. Perhaps we needed an Argentinian to turn his outsider gaze on the innermost values which bind us Europeans together, to remind us of our strengths. After all, at times when the words Europe and crisis are often uttered in the same breath, it is easy to forget what Europe has achieved and what it is capable of. Now, why would you give the Charlemagne Prize to the Pope? Well, it's really simple. Because the kingdom of Charlemagne has always been a partnership between the political powers of Europe and the Pope. Every time. Every single time in the last 1,000 years. So why should we be surprised that the Pope would be awarded the Charlemagne Prize? Because he's working right now to bring about the unification of Europe, but not just the unification of Europe. He is preaching his message of a borderless world, just like John Kerry is, just like Barack Obama is, just like Hillary Clinton is. They're all preaching the message of the borderless world. Well, except for one stick in the mud. I got a quote here by Donald Trump. You know, he's the one that's campaigning against the establishment, and he wants to build a wall. Here's what he's saying. The growing popularity of Trump's anti-globalist message has caused immense backlash from the political class. That's the class that's for the borderless world, especially Washington, D.C. During a press conference last month, Trump said, "We will no longer surrender this country or its people to the false song of globalism." Sounds like he knows what's going on. Sounds like he understands that they're trying to create a system of global governance. Maybe he's talked to Strobe Talbot and heard that he says in the 21st century, national sovereignty as we have known it will cease to exist. We'll all answer to a single global authority. Maybe he's already talked to John Kerry as he promotes the new borderless world. Or maybe he's just watched millions pour across our borders and our president refused to enforce our laws. Now, remember, there are laws controlling immigration. That's the reason any immigrant that comes in here without going through the proper process is called illegal. That means against the law. But guess what our president is doing? Well, he's an illegal president because he supports illegal immigrants coming in, and he refuses to let our border guards enforce the law. It should be grounds for impeachment, but that's not going to happen because many of the Republicans that now control both houses of Congress, well, they're in for this borderless world too. That's the reason that when Donald Trump said, "We need to build a wall," oh, they're screaming to high heavens. And by the way, they've already passed acts of Congress to build the wall, and the money's already been appropriated. But who's built the wall? Not George W. Bush, not Bill Clinton, not Barack Obama. You know why? Because it's Tweedledee and Tweedledum. The Republican Party and the Democratic Party have now been all seized by the same elements. Now they're trying to say to Donald Trump, now that he is the presumptive Republican nominee, oh, now then you've got to make peace with the establishment. You're going to have to get together, negotiate so that they can take their power and bring you into line so you're more acceptable to the mainstream. Well, guess what? The mainstream has voted the establishment out. The mainstream voted against. And I want to be careful here because I don't want to be a political animal at all. I'm called to preach the gospel. But when I read the prophecies of the Bible and see that they prophesy a one world government, and then I see major politicians on both sides of the aisle, both Republican and Democrat, campaigning for this new world order and financing the campaign, I realize that America was just about ready to go over the cliff. You know, some of the politicians were saying in this recent primary, This is our last chance to keep America from going over the cliff. What did they mean? They meant going over the cliff into globalism or into the New World Order. I want to read this statement by Donald Trump one more time so you can hear it. During a press conference last month, Trump said, "We will no longer surrender this country or its people to the false song of globalism." I don't want the United States of America to become a part of the one world government. There's reason to believe biblically that we're going to back up from the brink. We were almost over the brink. Now, do I think that Donald Trump is the savior of the world? No. I know who the savior of the world is. It's Jesus Christ. However, if Mr. Trump will save the United States of America from going into this one world governmental system, then that will be a wonderful thing that's getting ready to happen. I can't guarantee you, I know what he's saying. He has centered his campaign against the establishment and against the chaos that's going on in the world. When the establishment would come to him during the debates and say, well, this, he'll say, hey, you guys have been running things for the last 50 years, and we've had nothing but chaos and more chaos, and we're $19 trillion in debt, and I don't want to listen to you. Does Donald Trump need to adopt the policies of the establishment? No, we got to get rid of them. They've wrecked the United States of America. Again, though, I will remind you, our answer is not political. Our answer is spiritual. If my people that are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face, then I will hear from heaven, I will forgive their sin, and I will heal their land. If God raises up a ruler that will create a climate so that God's church can have a true revival, then that'll be great. But the revival will not come from politics. It has to come from you and me. The problem we have is not in the White House. The problem we have is in our house, my house, your house. What's going on inside of our homes? Are we praying with our children? Are we reading our Bibles? Or are we absorbing a constant diet of Hollywood and secularism? Those are the questions that we have to ask. Our new magazine is going to the press shortly. You don't want to miss it. If you're not yet a subscriber to Endtime Magazine, don't wait another minute. Pick up the phone, call 1-800-ENDTIME, become a subscriber to Endtime Magazine. If you want to start your own ministry, get a bundle. A lot of people do, pass out 10 or 20 every month. Make a difference. The number to call, 800-ENDTIME. I'll be right back to take your calls.
Hey, this is the first time I actually tuned into your show, and my brother was telling me about it, so I thought I'd check it out. He was telling me that there's certain animals that represent the different nations and the end times.
Well, I'll never forget when I first saw this, I thought, what's this all about? You know, it says right here, these nations will be on the earth at the time of the second coming. The lion had eagle's wings. And there's a major nation who symbols the eagle.
Yeah, that'd be us.
Yeah, but guess where the eagle's wings were growing out of?
Where?
The lion.
Hey, that makes perfect sense.
Where did America
from the
come
UK.
Where did America come from?
Yeah, the UK.
And then verse 4 says, I watched until the wings were plucked, broken off of the lion. Can you believe in 550 BC, God foretold the Declaration of Independence, which would occur 2,300 years later?
Wow.
Call 1-800-ENDTIME to get your copy of U.S. Discovered in the Bible.
Study prophecy wherever you go with End Times audio downloads. Listen to 1-hour lessons like Will Islam Rule the World or Seeds of Armageddon for just $4.99. Let your imagination and your understanding of prophecy dive into the end-time novels like China War and the Third Temple and Dark Intentions written by Irvin Baxter. Maybe you feel bombarded by what's going on in the news and you want to just hear some good old-fashioned preaching. We have tons of sermons taught by Irvin that are rich in truth. You can go through our entire Understanding the End Time series while driving to work, cooking dinner, or wherever your busy day takes you. Let our audio library accompany you by going to endtime.com/store and click the audio downloads.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, once again, God is elbowed his way onto the front pages of our newspapers. He's dominating the headlines of our media because here all these things are breaking right now. John Kerry, our Secretary of State, talking about a borderless world. The Pope, he's talking about a world without borders. The Democratic candidate for president, Hillary Clinton's talking about tearing down all the walls, having a world without borders. And it's right in the Bible. I've been preaching this for years, that there's a one world government coming. Well, now then it's being trumpeted this weekend. So you think the Bible's out of date? No, the Bible's ahead of its time. I am taking your calls in this last segment. We do have some open lines. The number to call to be on the air with me, 877-END-TIME. Let's go right now to South Carolina. Emily is calling. Hello, Emily.
Hi, Pastor Baxter. I agree with everything you said. It was, oh my goodness, you're right on point for everything. And I have so many questions, but I'm just going to ask you one. Always in the Antichrist, in Daniel 11:40, it says, "At the time of the end, the king of the south shall attack him, and the king of the north shall come against him." I always thought he was the king of the north. Then why is it that the king of the north comes against him?
Well, that's worded a little left-handed there, Emily. If you'll go all the way through from verse 20 to verse 45, it's consistent that the king of the north is the Antichrist. The king of the south is going to be an enemy. I know that one verse there is worded sort of funny, like sometimes happen in King James verbiage, but it's referring to the king of the north. The king of the south is the one that's going to come against him, and there's going to be a war. I do not know for sure who the king of the south is, but from verse 20 on, I've studied it 1,000 times, and it looks consistent to me that the king of the north there in that last 25 verses of Daniel chapter 11 is referring to the Antichrist.
Okay, thank you. I just had a comment then, too. The Pope, the blood moons, how for many, over the blood moons, the, what is it called, the tetrad, where something event happens. Well, the Pope was selected before the blood moons and the date was interesting too. The date he was selected was on 3/13/13, which was a year, I think, before the first blood moon started. Didn't they start from 2014 to 15, I believe? Yeah.
Yes, they did.
Anyway, I just thought that was interesting, and thank you for everything you've done, and we really appreciate your ministry. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Keep praying for me. I need your prayers, because we've got a lot of work to do. We've done a lot of work, but I've been on the air now since 1998, which means 18 years. I've been to this microphone every day, 5 days a week for 1 hour, and that's been a privilege of mine to do that. We've been publishing Endtime Magazine since 1991. Consequently, we're going on our 25th anniversary of the publication of Endtime Magazine. Now we've been on television since 2010. So had a lot of things happen. My problem is we got more to do than we've done so far. So everything's going to have to escalate. It's going to take a supernatural act of God, but I know God's going to do it. He is going to help us. The Bible says the gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world, then shall the end come. And so I depend on all of you out there, your prayers, your support, to help us to go ahead faster than ever. If you're already a partner with Endtime Ministries, why don't you talk to some of your friends and neighbors and say, hey, we need you to join us with Endtime Ministries. Become a partner with Endtime. If everybody out there who is a partner would go out and get 3 or 4 partners, it would put us way down the pike so we could accelerate even more rapidly this effort to reach the world. But let me tell you, it's going to happen. I can see it coming already. I'm so excited. Let's get back to the phones now. Alfred is calling from Louisiana. Hello, Alfred. Alfred, are you with me? Okay, I don't know whether Alfred is. Are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're on the air.
My question is, as we look in the Bible, I am, yes, sir. Hi. Thanks for taking my call, Pastor.
That's fine, Alfred. What's your question?
Am I there? Okay. According to the statute,
Alfred, you need to turn your radio off. I think it's confusing you. So just talk to me and forget the radio, or turn it off if you possibly can.
okay. According to the Bible, the statute would
Okay, you're still apparently being confused by something, Alfred. You're wanting to talk about the statue of Daniel in Daniel chapter number 2? Okay, I don't know what's happened, but apparently there's a technical problem or something. So sorry about that, Alfred. If you get it cleared up, I'd be glad to take your question. While we're dealing with that to see if it can be cleared up, I had another article that was written by Alan West, and he was referring to John Kerry's statement that the people of the Northeastern University were entering a borderless world. And here's what Alan West had to say about it. Herein lies the most dangerous and threatening issue about the progressive socialist of the left. They do not believe in America as a sovereign nation with borders to be protected. Many times they will describe themselves as internationalists. George Herbert Walker Bush described himself as an internationalist. David Rockefeller, the chairman of Chase Manhattan Bank, in his memoirs on page 404, those memoirs written in 2002, he stated, "Some people have accused me and my family of being part of a group, a cabal, if you please, working toward the establishment of an international government, a new world order." He said, "If that is the charge, I am guilty and I am proud of it." He was an avid advocate for world government. His right-hand person, Henry Kissinger, believed the same. Bill Clinton believed the same. Hillary Clinton believes the same. Strobe Talbot believes the same. They all have bought into this siren song of globalism, and they believe that we need to surrender the sovereignty of the United States. And then in Alan West's article, he said, "It's clear Kerry meant borderless in terms of America's loss of sovereignty. And if America has no sovereignty, it is not America." Donald Trump says, "If we do not have borders, we don't have a country." That is the burning issue of this present presidential campaign. That's what it's really all about. Okay, we're going back to the phones now. Joseph is calling from Florida. Hello, Joseph.
Hello, Irving. I have a question. These fires that are taking place in Canada, the trestle fire that cut off northwest Canada, and now the fires in Alberta, do you think they could be like judgments from God for their historical acceptance of homosexuality and now their open acceptance of Islam?
Well, it could be. You know, there have always been tornadoes, there have been fires, there have been storms, and I'm not willing to say, oh yeah, that's God's judgment, or it's not God's judgment, but it certainly can be. God has ways of exacting judgment upon people who turn away. We know that God destroyed by fire Sodom and Gomorrah. We know that he destroyed the world by a flood in Noah's day. And many other times God has sent judgment on the earth because of the sinfulness of mankind and the rebellion against God and his word. So I certainly would not say that it is not. Canada is a very pro-gay, pro-homosexual. I know that there were a couple of people who put ads in one of the papers up there, and they didn't say a thing. They just simply quoted a scripture, Leviticus, I think it was Leviticus 27 or something like that. They just quoted the scripture pertaining to homosexuality. And they were sued by 2 homosexuals, and the courts of Canada sued them for putting that scripture in the newspaper. Of course, that's suing people for publishing God's word. So they are, like you say, they're very pro-gay. They have laws that if you speak against homosexuality, there's a 5-year prison term. So they are very much against that. So yes, it certainly could be, but would I be willing to say, oh yes, this is the judgments of God? I don't know that.
Okay, thank you, and you have a great day, and God bless.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Joseph. Now, the Bible, this scripture has come to me very emphatically lately. My people perish for a lack of knowledge. And by and large, most people in our world today don't understand what's going on. There's all kinds of theories out there. The progressives, Alan West calls them progressive socialists because that's what they are. The head of the Democratic Party was asked, what's the difference between, is the Democratic Party a socialist party? And she stuttered and stammered, because it is. When you talk about socialism, they're accusing Bernie Sanders of being a socialist. Well, there's a reason why they let him run for president, because the Democratic Party is a socialist party. Hillary Clinton is a socialist. When you campaign for socialized medicine, like Barack Obama did, you're a socialist. When you're in favor of wealth redistribution, you're a socialist. And a lot of socialism has infiltrated the Republican Party as well. Socialism as opposed to free enterprise. Well, anyway, again, my interest is not politics here, even though that comes into what we all do. My real interest is God's plan for this end time. While the people who believe in world government are pushing towards their hope, their dreams are wrapped up in accomplishing this one world government, God's people, we're pushing toward the great end time revival that's also prophesied in the Bible. The Bible says in the last days, there will be a great multitude that no man can number out of every kindred, nation, and tongue. And these are they that have come out of great tribulation. That's the times just ahead. We are going to have a great, unprecedented revival just ahead. But it won't happen without the teaching of God's Word. God's Word is the seed for revival. And unless we do what God told us to do, go ye therefore and teach all nations, you can't reap a crop you do not sow. That's what we're on the air every day for. And that's why we publish Endtime Magazine. That's the reason we're doing conferences. So, become a partner with us, educate yourself. You can go to our store. The number to call is 1-800-ENDTIME or go to endtime.com.
End of the Age is a production of Endtime Ministries. This broadcast will be available on our website, endtime.com, in the archives section. On our website, you'll also find more information about how current events are fulfilling Bible prophecy. To reach our operators, call 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463. Endtime Ministries is partner supported. We would like to say thank you to our partners who made this broadcast possible. To do what Matthew 24:14 said, to reach the world with the gospel of the kingdom.